So cast your minds way back to the beginning of 2020, before any of us even knew what a total shit show this hemorrhoid of a year would actually turn out to be, and 5G phones were still fairly scarce and also generally pretty effing expensive. But now that those reliable 5G networks are finally spreading across the globe, and of course the price of a 5G contract is coming down thanks to a good bit of competition, it's actually finally worth considering grabbing yourself a 5G smartphone. That is assuming, of course, that we're not all going to once again be trapped inside of our homes in 2021 by COVID strain 2 or robot dinosaurs from Mars or whatever other delights that fate has in store for us. And the good news is that you can comfortably grab a very good 5G phone on a budget of £300 or under, so you've basically got very little excuse not to jump on the bandwagon. Now, I fully tested and reviewed loads of cheapy 5G phones over the last few months, and here's my pick of the best under £300 and also a couple just over 300 quid if you want to splurge a bit. And for more on the latest greatest tech, please do plug subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now, first up is one of the most impressive value handsets launched in 2020, the clunkily named but rather lovely Xiaomi Mi 10T Lite. Seriously, the specs of this absolute unit are just as eye-catching as this rose gold paint job. The standard price of the Mi 10T Lite at the time I shot this was 229 quid here in the UK direct from Xiaomi, and for that price point you get some really premium features, including a massive 6.67 inch IPS display with 120Hz refresh rate, and of course you got that full 5G support thanks to Qualcomm's Snapdragon 750G chipset. That slick and smooth Full HD Plus screen is great for gaming, as well as saying bollocks to work with an all-day anime marathon. Meanwhile, that 750G power means you can blaze through titles like PUBG and Call of Duty with the graphics set to high and keep a gorgeous fluid frame rate. The 4820mAh battery isn't as big as some others in this roundup, but you'll still get 2 days of use if you don't go nuts. In fact, the only real weak link here is the quad camera, led by a 64MP primary sensor, which sometimes struggles if conditions aren't quite perfect. Of course, a major factor in how well you get on with the Mi 10T Lite is your general feelings towards Xiaomi's MIUI launcher. This had some funky features like that control center, which has been shamelessly lifted from Apple, and some dedicated gaming tools as well, although it can also be a little bit buggy at times. If you'd rather have yourself a completely pure Android experience, then I would definitely highly recommend Motorola's Moto G 5G Plus. Because while Xiaomi has fully transformed that Android experience with its MIUI 12 launcher, Motorola has instead gone full stock, with just a couple of bonus features like motion gestures and face recognition chucked on top. The Moto G 5G Plus supports Qualcomm's very capable Snapdragon 765 chipset, so you can merrily game away on whatever the hell you like, with a performance boost over that Mi 10T Lite, so the phone shouldn't show its age anytime soon. And Motorola now includes similar gaming features to Xiaomi's MIUI launcher as well, to help keep you focused on the game, help block notifications, stuff like that. And yeah, as both the phone's name and its inclusion in this roundup heavily hints, you've got that full 5G support on there too. Like the Mi 10T Lite, this blower serves up another flippin' massive 6.7 inch Full HD Plus IPS screen, this time with HDR10 support. And the defining feature here is that 21:9 cinema wide design, which means you'll get a proper widescreen view of your games or movies with minimal letterboxing. And the Moto G 5G Plus serves up a 90Hz refresh rate on that display as well, not quite up to the same level as that Xiaomi phone, but I'll be buggered if my knackered old peepers can tell the difference. And battery life is just as bloody good as well, with a 5000mAh cell stuffed inside of this thing, while a 48MP primary camera does a bang-up job with everyday snaps. Wanna know more? Well, just like the Mi 10T Lite, I was using the Moto G 5G Plus as my full-time smartphone ahead of my in-depth review, which is live right now on TechSperts, go check that out. And yet another budget-friendly 5G smartphone, the cost around the same as that Moto blower, is the Realme X50 5G. Now this is actually one of my favourite Realme smartphones of 2020, boasting Qualcomm's beefy Snapdragon 765G platform. That's similar to the Moto G 5G Plus's chipset, but with a boosted GPU for a further improved gaming experience. That's great news if you love blasting new arseholes in your mates online. And yes, there is yet another proper gaming mode to keep you focused and to keep things running smoothly. And you should find you get good returns from that 4200mAh battery as well, which yet significantly smaller than a lot of the other rivals in this roundup, but I still found that the Realme X50 5G comfortably made it through even the most arduous of days. As for the rest of the phone, well, that's generally just as stunning. That 6.57 inch IPS screen is once again crisp and colourful, while the 120Hz refresh rate is a match for Xiaomi's Mi 10T Lite. However, the global version of the X50 5G unfortunately uses Samsung's GM1 sensor for the 48 megapixel primary camera, and this proves inferior to the Moto G 5G Plus and is just about a match for Xiaomi's blower. For a little bit less cash, you can have yourself a Realme 7 5G smartphone instead, although post Black Friday it only seems to be a 20 quid difference and the specs are more or less on par. Rather than a Snapdragon chip here, you've got MediaTek's very capable Dimensity 800U platform, which again boasts onboard 5G and is perfectly capable of playing games like Call of Duty and PUBG. The Dimensity's efficient running means you'll get close to 2 full days of use on a charge as well. You've got a solid view of your games, movies and all those other bits with the same sizable Full HD Plus IPS screen on board, complete with that smooth as buttery Pawn Store Balls 120Hz refresh action. However, like the X50 5G, that 48 megapixel primary camera is once again very limited in its abilities, often stumbling in strong light. Now, if you find you've got over 300 quid to spend on your new smartphone, then that opens up a couple of new options, including the Oppo Reno 4Z 5G, which will drain your wallet or purse to the tune of 329 bob. This is another budget mobile packing a MediaTek Dimensity SoC with perfectly good everyday performance and enough grunt to give you the edge over every other f***er in a virtual battle to the death. Battery life is very respectable despite the smaller 4500mAh cell, and yeah, shock surprise, you've got a 6.6 inch Full HD Plus IPS display with 120Hz refresh. That 48 megapixel rear camera does a decent job for capturing everyday snaps, where you've also got a dual lens selfie setup for gorgeous portrait shots. Well, gorgeous if you're not a stressed out baldy bugger like me. And another smartphone manufacturer that has fully embraced 5G is OnePlus, who's pumped out a couple of budget friendly 5G offerings in 2020. First up, there's the OnePlus Nord, which costs just over 350 quid and boasts the same Snapdragon 765G chipset as Realme's X50 5G. So no surprise therefore that online ultraviolence is a thing of glory and wonder, playing with a perfectly smooth frame rate. And while the OnePlus Nord's battery life isn't quite as strong as some of the other rivals that I've mentioned in this best 5G budget smartphones roundup, it's still good enough to get you through a fairly hefty day more often than not, and you do still have that 30-watt fast charging where you do finally run out of juice. I love that refreshingly compact-ish design, especially in this lovable blue hue. And that 6.44-inch OLED screen is a stunner, boasting gorgeous contrast and punchy colours, plus a smooth 90Hz finish. It's definitely one of the best displays in this group by far. The OnePlus Nord's quad camera setup uses a 48 megapixel primary lens with Sony's IMX586 sensor, and while it's not infallible, this does a decent job with photo quality in good conditions. Plus you have a dual selfie cam up front, including an ultra wide option when you want to fit lots of heads in or some serious background action. And on top of all that, you've got that lovable Oxygen OS experience as well, with a guaranteed 2 years of OS updates to keep you looking fresh. And if you find that you can't quite stretch up all the way to that near £400 asking price, well, an alternative option is the OnePlus Nord N10 5G. This more affordable alternative trims 50 quid off of the cost of the original Nord, and while the standard Nord's lovely OLED display is sadly replaced here with a mere IPS panel, you do at least get a headphone jack and expandable storage on the N10, two things missing from the original. Games like Call of Duty Mobile still run absolutely fine, even though the Snapdragon 765G platform has been cut back to a Snapdragon 690 chipset. Thankfully, you've still got OnePlus's handy Fnatic gaming mode on board to hoard the phone's resources for the game and also make sure you're not distracted by any pesky messages popping up on screen. Battery life is also actually a bit better here than the original Nord 2, but the camera tech on the N10 is rather basic and I found that my handset was quite buggy to boot. Now once again, if you are intrigued by the OnePlus Nord N10, just go check out my full review which is live right now, and as I say, I've reviewed pretty much all of the smartphones that I mentioned here. You can find unboxings of the phones that I haven't fully reviewed, and if I've missed out your own personal favourite budget 5G smartphone, definitely let me know down in the comments below. It'd be great to hear from you. Please do poke subscribe, ding that notifications bell, and have yourselves a lovely rest of the weekend. Cheers everyone, love you!